Our screen, you are not visible on the screen, Sareesha ji.
Can you still not see me?
Yes, now it is okay. Vinitha, இது வந்து does it record as it is on my screen?
Yeah, it'll record the speaker's view. So whoever is speaking, their face will be shown on the screen.
Okay.
So when you're talking, your face. When she's talking, her face. The audio should marry.
Oh, ठीक है. Okay. Let us start. Vinitha, Sareesha ji, I welcome you once again to this studio of mine. I'll call this studio, nevertheless. It is just a chair and my laptop. Yet it's a seed of a studio. So let me introduce you to my Tamil audience in Tamil. Then you can add on to that, and then we'll proceed. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, because your picture was not there. என்னுடைய தமிழகத்து நண்பர்களே, நான் இந்த ஸ்ரீமதி சரீஷா கோமல், சரீஷா ரமேஷ்லால் கோமல், இது பேர்ல மட்டும் பகுதி இல்லை. ரமேஷ்லால் வந்து அவருடைய அப்பா. இவர் மேல பெரிய ஒரு தாக்கத்தை ஏற்படுத்தியவர். அவரே பேசுவார், அதுல உணர்ச்சி வசமா தன்னுடைய அப்பாவை பத்தி சொல்லுவார். அங்கே திருமணத்துக்கு பிறகு பேரை மாத்திர பழக்கம் இல்லை. கோமல் வந்து புருஷனுடைய குடும்ப பெயர், ரெண்டும் சேர்ந்திருக்கு. நம்ம தேசத்துல இருந்து 180 வருஷம் முன்னால சவுத் ஆப்பிரிக்காவுக்கு இன்டென்ச்சர்ட் லேபர், அங்க இருக்கிற கரும்பு தோட்டத்துல போனவர்கள், அந்த குடும்பம். இவரெல்லாம் வந்து தமிழ்நாட்டில இருந்து போனாங்களா, மகாராஷ்டிரால இருந்து போனாங்களா, பீகார்ல இருந்து போனாங்களா, தன்னுடைய முன்னோர்களுடைய ஊர் எது தெரியாதவர்கள் நிறைய பேர், அதிகமான பேர். அது அவங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப வருத்தம். பாரதத்து மேல பெரிய ஒரு ஸ்ரத்தை பக்தி அப்படி இருக்கிற ஒரு சமுதாயம். பணம் இருக்கு, இன்னைக்கு நிறைய படிச்சிருக்காங்க. ஆனா அமெரிக்கா, கனடா, ஆஸ்திரேலியான்னு போகாம பாரதத்துக்கு வரணும்னு ஆசைப்படுறவங்க. இங்க இருக்கிற புட்டபர்த்திக்கும் ரிஷிகேஷ் ஹரித்வாருக்கும் வருவார். இங்க யாருன்னே தெரியாது, ரொம்ப ஏக்கத்தோட வருவார் எல்லாரும். அப்படிப்பட்ட குடும்பங்கள் அங்கே சவுத் ஆப்பிரிக்கால. அதுல இந்த சரீஷா, இவர் வந்து கொஞ்சம் ரொம்ப ஒரு வித்தியாசமான ஒரு தனிமையான ஒரு பர்சனாலிட்டி. அவருடைய அப்பா, அவர் ரொம்பவும் பாசம் நிறைந்தவர், ஃபுல் ஆஃப் ஹார்ட். அதனால அவருக்கு ஹார்ட் அட்டாக்லாம் வந்தது, ஓப்பன் ஹார்ட் சர்ஜரிலாம் நடந்தது. ரொம்பவும் ஐஸ்கிரீம் மாதிரி அவர். ரமேஷ்லால். சதீஷ் இவருடைய புருஷன். நம்ம சவுத் ஆப்பிரிக்கன் சூழ்நிலைய புரிஞ்சுண்ட ரொம்ப குறைவான சில பேர். அங்க இன்னும் அரசியல்ல வந்து இவர் பெரிய பகுதிக்கு போக முடியும், ஆனாலும் கூட அதுல அது வேற சூழல், அது நான் அப்புறம் பேசுறேன். ரொம்ப குறைவா இருக்கிற முஸ்லிம்கள் 5 மினிஸ்டர் இருக்கிறான். ஆனா நம்ம தேசத்து இத்தனை பெரிய எண்ணிக்கை 12 லட்சம். ஆனா அங்க மினிஸ்ட்ரியில பெருசா நம்ம ஒண்ணும் இல்லை. ஆனா அதுக்கான தகுதி உள்ள சதீஷ் கோமல், அவருடைய மனைவி. நான் இவங்களோட ரொம்ப நெருங்கி பழகி இருக்கிறேன், இந்த குடும்பத்தோட. உணர்ச்சிகள் ஒரு பக்கம், ஆனா பேலன்ஸ் இன்னொரு பக்கம். ஸ்கூல் டீச்சரா இருந்தா நடிப்பு அப்படிங்கிற துறை, இங்கிலீஷ் அப்படிங்கிற சப்ஜெக்ட், ஆக்டிங், டிராமாட்டிக்ஸ் இல்லையா, டிராமாட்டிக்ஸ் அண்ட் இங்கிலீஷ், தட் வாஸ் யுவர் சப்ஜெக்ட், பேசிக் சப்ஜெக்ட். ஸோ அங்கிருந்து அதுக்கு பிறகு லைவ் கான்டாக்ட், இந்த மாதிரி ஆன்லைன் கான்டாக்ட் தான். இங்கே வருவார் அடிக்கடி நம்ம தேசத்துக்கு வந்து புட்டபர்த்தி, திருப்பதி. நான் அங்கே போன தடவை கூட திருச்செந்தூர் போயிருந்தேன் இவரை சந்திக்க. உணர்ச்சி வசம், நல்ல நிறைய கனவுகள். இது அதே சமயத்துல உறுதியான முடிவுகள் எடுக்கிற ஒரு மனப்பான்மை. இதுதான் சரீஷா கோமல். ரொம்ப ஆழமா சிந்தனை பண்றவங்க, ஆனா அதே சமயத்துல சிரிப்பு, புன் சிரிப்பு. ஆழமா சிந்தனை பண்றவங்க நிறைய பேர் சிரிப்பை இழந்துடுவாங்க. இந்த மாதிரி பெண்களுக்காக நிறைய செய்யணும்னு ஆசை. ஒரு பெரிய பணத்தை ஒதுக்கி நம்ம தேசத்துல பெண்களுக்காக ஏதாவது செய்யணும் பாரதத்துல அப்படின்னு ஆசை இருக்கு. ஸோ அந்த சரீஷா அவர்களை நான் அறிமுகப்படுத்தியிருக்கேன். I just introduced you. First, the South African scenario. Hindus, how did they go there, reach there? Then you are one of those families with money, sufficient money, yet most of you don't travel to America and Australia and Canada, but rather prefer to travel to Bharat. That is the emotional attachment that you have. But there is a tinge of grief in most of the South Africans, that they don't know the village, the exact place from where their forefathers went to South Africa. That's what I have seen. And I just introduced you, your family, your father. He is an ice cream heart full of love, and so he had a heart problem and bypass surgery also. Then Satish, of course, active, grasping the situation in South Africa, position of Hindus. He could have become a politician, but the South African situation is not, it has not yet transformed to take Hindu politicians, ministers. So this is the introduction I did for you. You have a few contrasts, emotional, at the same time firm, decisive, deep in thoughts, at the same time smiling. That is the introduction I did. And you have a dream, or you say you have a project to do some work, development work for girls in Bharat, and you have allotted a fund for that. That's what I understand. So this was the introduction I gave. Now welcome to this small studio of ours. There have been 6 interviews, Sarisha ji, in these last few days. Vinita was one. She is right from childhood, age of 10, she has been in New Zealand, her school studies. She was only non-white in a white school. She had described that emotional, that frictional treatment or experiences that she got. At the same time, a professor, a teacher, school teacher of hers, how he took a personal project like it. He took it as a challenge, and within the first year of her 6th class education, he created a bonding between the whites. He talked with the parents, he talked with the children, extra school hours, not for a salary. About that teacher, I asked her two persons who have influenced her. She said one was her father and the second was this teacher, white. So that was the first interview that we had. Then I interviewed a roadside vendor who sells uh, vegetables. That was very interesting, very practical. Then there was an interview of a friend of mine. She was an LIC agent, insurance agent. The middle of her life, 40, 35, 40, she lost her husband. He had the whole, he had earned a lot, but lost everything and left a huge debt. And she had never come out of her family with two small children, school boys. Then the struggle she faced to, and now she is in well off. Both the boys have settled, and she is very good, in a very good financial position. Now she contributes to social fields. Very bold lady. That was an interview. Then I interviewed one woman who performs informal discourses, religious discourses, here nearby in Srirangam, Uma Murali. One of my sisters I interviewed, that cassette also I could not extract. She married, her mother died of kidney failure. Father had donated one kidney. Then when she was in second year, her father wanted her to be married because the mother is dead. She is motherless. Now, there was the first choice was one who had given his one of his kidneys to his father. No, normally we don't have a medical background. We have so many fears and wrong notions. This small girl of 18 years, she decided to marry him only because he had given one of his kidneys to his father. That was the admiration, that was the factor for my admiration for her. Very young to me, very smart. Now she is a principal of a school in Chennai. But unfortunately, I could not retrieve that interview from the debris of this web. So let us start. You start with your comment and then we'll just chit chat.
Namaste,
Namaste.
Gopalji, and
Namaste.
to whoever is listening in. Thank you very much for this opportunity again. Always a pleasure to speak to you and to hear your voice and all the wonderful things that you are doing. So thank you again. Namaste. I am Sareesha Rameshlal Komal. I love the way you included my family name, my born and raised family name, because that is equally important, especially in the 21st century, with the kind of issues that we are dealing with. I'm appreciative of that, respected Gopalji, that you had managed to bring in the invaluable contribution that my mom and my dad have played in my own personal life and growth, and that of many other people as well. So thank you very much for that. South Africa, you know, at the moment has really progressed phenomenally. So I have to give credit there in terms of the country, but still we have very much fine tweaking to do. So I'm sure in due progress and due time, because all good things do take time, as I'm also learning.
Yes.
So I think it is, part of the progress right now. But I am, just for those that are listening in, a fourth generation South African born Hindu practicing woman. And the two things that stand out for me that I take a lot of pride in is that I am South African first, but I'm Hindu practicing. That means I also give full credit right at the very beginning to the ancestral lineage of Bharat Mata, because I am who I am because of that lineage.
Oh, fine. I have seen you performing your Saturday puja and giving argyam. That's it's a part of our practice. Argyam to the sun,
Yes.
dropping few drops of water for the sun at sunrise and sunset. Yeah, I have seen so many of them in South Africa doing that. So many saints have contributed to that who have visited there, or reciprocally, the visits that you have made to various places in Bharat where you have learnt this. I remember our Bangalore no, I forget his name. He was a very frequent visitor to South Africa. He has visited almost 25 times. He has built a Bharat Mata temple in his home. I forgot his name. Then the Ramakrishna sannyasi that who now I don't think he has been replaced by someone else. Very jovial, very lively sannyasi that he was. And he attracted very huge number of South African Hindus. Ramakrishna Mission was a great center, vibrant center for Hindus.
Yes.
Similarly, that old man, sannyasi, in Divine Life Society, Sahajananda was his name, I think.
Yes.
Very quiet. Especially, I remember the thousands of pictures, colorful pictures of birds and flowers that he had collected. It is a form of a type of tapasya.
Yes.
Definitely. That was very beautiful and very enormous collection by a sannyasi.
Yes.
So naturally, for a short-term visitor like me, if they could have influenced and cast my eyes, for you, definitely they must have been a very huge factor in your life, in your childhood and youth. So I like to know a few things about the influencing factors that kept you to this religion, this tradition of lineage of Bharat.
The most influential factors, there are many. I'm very blessed in the sense that number one, which for me is the priority, is having Hindu parents who are practicing Hindus. So Hindu parents who are practicing Hindus, that for me is the ultimate source of inspiration first. The first time I observed Surya Jal being offered is from my dad. The first time I observed sitting at the altar place in front of Sri Krishna Bhagwan and reciting the Bhagavad Gita is from my mom. So those were the first qualities and first understanding of what religious practice or rituals are from my parents. The second most influential, I would think, is the Ramakrishna Center in South Africa, for sure. We were very fortunate that we had the Ramakrishna branch in Merebank, Durban, South Africa, and a absolutely phenomenal, selfless human being, Mr. Danpal Naidu, who used to run the organization, still runs the organization in Merebank. We had regular satsangs and bhajans. So he used to trip to Bharat. And from his experiences, we got to experience the land. We got to experience the experiences of divine rituals. understanding what the various festivals were, first and foremost from those experiences and connections. So that was very, very important. And the third influence is that came, I could say quite comfortably in my early youth, was that from having very present spiritual mentors. And I'm very blessed that I have been directly involved in Hindu organizations from South Africa linked directly to Bharat, where there is spiritual mentors that have physical and direct contact with me. So that constant presence allows my mind to constantly be engaged in things that are wholesome and deep, and things that we should be able to do as practicing Hindus. And I want to also give credit to persons like yourself, who's made continuous efforts to connect and to constantly teach us that which you understand. Those are invaluable connections. And the fact that you are from Bharat Mata itself gives you already a grand position in my life. So these are the kind of influences that I think has been really profound in making sure that we are practicing Hindus, making sure that we are continuing the lineage of our forefathers.
So, any great experience, memory from your memory regarding the role of religion, religious practice, or spiritual attitude? Can you dig out some memory and share with us? One I remember, that was, it was even for me, I am a bit agnostic, though I look religious. It kindled a different world for me. That premonition picture that you had of Satish being put under pistol by the hijackers, something like that. It was on a fee collection day, and it happened after 1 week or 10 days. Some such memory, that this spiritual attitude, because I know you have been a regular visitor to Puttaparthi Sai Baba.
Yes.
And you are very deeply devoted to that mission through Puttaparthi himself, Sai Baba himself. I have heard a few incidents from you. So you can just share one or two with us.
To come back to the incident that you mentioned, it was we as a family, we used to do our Friday morning Lakshmi Pooja.
Oh, Friday prayer.
Yeah, so we used to do our Lakshmi prayer together on Fridays, and I could very clearly see exactly what was happening. And after the prayers, I mentioned this exactly to Satish. Exactly a week later, exactly the Friday later, it happened. But because he was made aware, I'm very blessed that he was able to trust the premonition, and he was able to do what was necessary. I think things worked out much more safer and much more, it was a healthy solution. Nobody got physically hurt, and I'm so grateful for that. And it happened as it should have happened, that something was meant to happen, it happened, but the extent of which, or the devastation of which could have been, was cut through, I feel, in my heart. And that is purely because of divine intervention, no other explanation at all.
Yes.
My other experience that is very, that has linked me directly to Stree Shakti Sai Baba, because in our home, we've not been directly, my parents never said to us that you will follow Shivji Bhagwan or Krishna Bhagwan, or you will follow Mother Saraswati or what. It was God. It was God in practice. It was understanding.
Typical Hindu attitude.
No.
My mother never prescribed one particular form of God.
Yes. There was no prescription about it, but the values of the Dharma was very
Yes. Yes.
So I understood it from that. But of course, in our altar place, because my dad's mum had the murti of Sri Krishna Bhagwan, so my dad has that murti, and so we also, start with
Yes.
that. So my understanding of that really was that God is present. I have to live through the practices to feel connected. And so Sri Satya Sai Baba was, always spoken about amongst our spiritual circles and our religious circles, but I never really felt a deep connection. But also in my mind, I'm also very inquisitive, and I'm also very analytical about things. If I surrender wholeheartedly. But I first do my background work, and I think that is important also.
Yes.
It so happened that in 2000 and I think it was 2007. No, I think it was 2002.
Take clear. Nani, I just asked her if she is listening.
In 2002, I was lying in my bed, and I had the full awareness that somebody is in my room.
Oh,
Yeah, and this is a story that I only ever mentioned to my immediate family. So it's quite
Nani,
personal.
you have mentioned this to me.
Immediate
That
family,
he is
that's it. Yes.
floating.
Correct. And I could see him perfectly, and I opened my eyes and I could see Sri Satya Sai Baba perfectly in my room. And I tried to wake Satish up, but he says, "Don't worry." And I looked again and I saw Swami walk across, and he looked at me and he looked and he walked. And I just observed him and he observed me, and he was gone. And it was the very same day that my dad had a heart attack, and he had passed.
Oh,
And
oh,
normally, I think because of my connection with my father, I am very restless when something like that happens, very agitated. But on that day, I remember Satish saying to me, "Don't worry, whatever it is, you'll be fine. Just embrace Swami." And quite truthfully, when I went to the hospital, I couldn't find my father. He was taken to be resuscitated. He had literally passed on, and they had to resuscitate him. And the wonderful anecdote about this is the surgeon that resuscitated him, his name is Hanuman. So my dad is also a great Hanumanji Bhakt. So, and the surgeon didn't give up on my father. He did what he needed to do, even though perhaps he shouldn't have to, try to resuscitate him as much as he did, but he didn't give up. And it was on that day that I had the vision of Sri Satya Sai, on the same day that this experience, and for me, there is no coincidence in the world. I don't believe in coincidences. So all of that put together gave me a perfect understanding that I am so protected, that I am so guided, and my family are so protected and guided. And I continued from that day to affirm the role that Sri Satya Sai Baba plays in my life.
One more thing. Here, we live in our own land. We know the people around. They are also very similar. Definitely, there are shades of behaviors,
Yeah.
all shades of them. Yet, most of the situation around us is predictable.
Mhm.
There, when this with whites on the one hand, who have been rulers, then blacks who have been subjected to a very rude life by the rulers, racial discrimination, and now they are ascending the power. I have seen most of the Hindus speaking harsh words for the blacks. They used to call Ravan or Rakshas and all those words. I found very few families, and US was one, Satish also, who had, in spite of a few bitter experiences, you had a very positive and very grand view about the the blacks, the original owners of the land. That was very rare for me. That was an election year when I was there, and we used to discuss a lot about that minority front aligning with ANC, and we should vote for ANC or minority front, not for us. Yet 60-70% of them voted for NNP and DP. That was the election atmosphere. But very few, because most of our views are formed on our own personal experience.
Yes.
To go beyond a personal experience and to see a wider sight, a deeper insight, that requires a lot of balance within us. That is a speciality that was I felt about Satish and you. So, what do you think about this? Trying to come together, trying to create an integration between the various communities. How much success has South Africa achieved in that? And what about our own youth getting influenced and, as you said, leaving the lineage or the root of theirs, ancestral root, Bharata, Hindu, practicing Hindu, that is what you said. So they are just Hindus, non-practicing or totally into the other behavioral patterns. So what do you think about this situation in South Africa?
Such a loaded question, Gopalji. The first thing is that, you know, when I think back, South Africa at the moment in terms of Indians, it's 160 years, more than 160 years that Indians have settled from Bharat Mata to South Africa, okay? And they came already with the value of resilience. So they already had that value of resilience when they came to the land. So we were born, and I am fourth generation, we are born from that value of resilience, of strength. That's the first point. The second point is, I think worldwide today, there is slower progress right now for the fact that we are presently in Kali Yuga, and if we accept it.
Sound a little bit voice.
I think worldwide, it is really important that we understand that right now we are experiencing the kind of world atrocities that we are, quite frankly, because we are in the process of unearthing. From a spiritual background, that's what's happening. It's destruction that's creating something more constructive for us in the future. So that's something that we have to remember at the back of our mind. The attitude of South African Hindus towards other race groups, you know, that is, again, a personal matter. There are people who have empowered themselves and who understand the lineage that they come from, and the fact that we ourselves are coming there as indentured laborers. We have come to the land from that. So we have to give respect to those that first belonged in the land. Absolutely
Correct.
important.
Yes.
The second important point is that there, you know, if we accept Vasudeva Kutumbakam, if we accept Namaste as our greeting, that I see divine in you, if we accept that the whole world is one big family, that I see the divine in you and I respect and worship the divine that is in you, then who am I now to trespass against those things and still consider myself to be
beautiful
a Hindu?
Yes.
So we have to be able to work with a mindset that gives us the opportunity to truly be embodiments of divine ourselves. That is really important. However, that being said, is it easy to do? No, it's not easy to do, because the South African climate at the moment is challenging. Hence, many of us have to, even now, leave South African environment and work outside of our homes to try and give our families something more. Okay? But does it mean that it's any less in terms of progress? Not at all. I think from where South Africa was and to where South Africa is, the human contact and the humanizing of individuals, the dignity that's been given to human beings, not being seen as race, black, white, Asian, colored, what have you. No. The fact that we are looked as South Africans, that is a huge improvement in terms of constitutional value. And for me, that means South Africa is progressing. All the other little tidbits are things that have to fall into place within the time frame that's required.
Beautiful, very good. But it's a challenge. How do we teach our own youth to behave in this atmosphere? And the first accept the condition that you said, we have to respect and prioritize the basic owners of that land.
Absolutely.
We cannot transgress. The second thing, how do we teach the youth from the other races the attitude towards us? We are very soft. We are very broad. When there is violence everywhere, our doors are all open. We are not security conscious because we trust. We try to integrate. So how do we, on both sides, to teach our own youth, our values, our lineage, and our behavior with the interactions with the other races, and how does the government teach the youth in general in education about this integration of various races coming together, because it is visible, these colors. So it's a very challenge. It's the most challenging aspect of a South African life. And I loved South Africa only because of this. At every step, I had to be conscious of this. In our land, I am never conscious because all are similar persons around me. This aspect, integrating with them, is not at the background or in the foreground of my mind, but there it is so obvious and it is so challenging. So in that respect, your roles as social workers, our organization's roles, that should be, what do you feel about this?
You know, we can have the best constitution, we can have the best scriptures, but if we do not practice it, it means nothing.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it requests and it calls on every single individual to truly be ambassadors of that constitution, of those scriptures that we preach. We need to be able to model the kind of behavior ourselves, because ultimately, you know, we can have fantastic platforms where we are speaking to people. And yes, we have to have more hard conversations, more conscious conversations, must have it. Very, very important. But still, ultimately, the responsibility lies on me as an individual, observing enough and feeling enough, empowered enough to want to make a change. So I think it is about, again, individual modeling the kind of behavior, modeling the kind of attitude that we want to experience in the world. So if we want to experience that, it starts with us first. The change has to start first with ourselves. And there only can we expect somebody else to be doing it in order for it to be effective long term. Because we want the change to be sustainable. And in order for it to be sustainable, it has to first come from within myself, that I get it, I understand it. So even though I'm living in so much of sludge and mud, I'm still able to work through it because
Beautiful.
it's in me.
Very good. Excellent. Now, last point that we'll discuss. It's time now. Maybe it will get disconnected in 40 minutes. About I don't normally divide the society as male and female, yet it's a huge point for discussion everywhere about the status, about the empowerment of women folk. In the advanced countries, it is of a different kind. Here, it's more economical independence. That's the priority field here in our field. Especially the urban life, where values are coming down, or where harshness or arrogance is visible everywhere. So the experience that women folk are put into, with women also coming out of their homes on the road all the 24 hours, doing various sorts of jobs. So what do you feel? Because I know that's a very dominant subject in your mind. In Arab world, probably with very harsh laws, repressive laws, and very tough policing, probably this is all stopped with veil, head to toe veil and all. But in Western world, or in our democratic, our country, what do you feel about this aspect in today's modern, less educated, less cultured, arrogant youth? Me, a hugely bloated me, and with the feeling that they are to be suppressed, kept under control. It can take violent and physical, I don't know. What do you feel?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. The bottom line is the disrespect on females is a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just one country that we can identify and say that this country is, the highest in terms of that, because we also need to look at the geographics and exactly how large the population is. Now, my concern is this: we as females we need to be able to empower ourselves, especially Hindu women, for example. I want to be able to speak from that background because that's my strength. Okay, we need to be able to take opportunities like the divine rituals that we have. For example, right now we're in the heart of Navarathri. My whole idea and understanding of Navarathri is divine intervention. That she comes in that sense that despite what you are dealing with in the world, despite the disrespect from the various extremities that you are dealing with, take the opportunity to surrender to the mother and use this divine opportunity to truly surrender and find your balance again. Find your balance as to who you are, what is the innate quality that you bring to the world, and be able then to rejuvenate, to go out again and do it. The whole issue of women empowerment is extremely important, because if we look at worldwide, women have been put right at the back of the heart and mind and effect in terms of many aspects of the world. But still, there has been a marked effort made in terms of leadership of women in the home, leadership of women in the community, leadership of women in the country. So we as individuals, and rightly as you said, don't look at it as a male and female issue. Look at it as a human issue, that it is about human dignity that needs to be restored. And if we understand it from that perspective, we will not then want to say you are less able to do something or you are more able to do something. It is about your latent potential as an individual, what capacity or potential you have to bring back to the world. And that is what we need. And that's the reason why I'm so madly and crazily and actively in love with organizations like Rashtriya Sevika Samiti, Hindu Sevika Samiti, because it is female spiritual mentors who aspire for every individual to live their best life, that we have the capacity to not only live for ourselves, but also when we are living for ourselves and living our best life, we impact and influence our community positively. And that's
Beautiful.
something we need to be able to remember, that if I am well mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I impact and I influence the community that I live in. So if in the role as mother, the role as sister, the role as wife, the role as neighbor, whatever role I am playing, I am then influencing positively, not just me.
It's 11 hours.
But also the community at large.
Oh, is it saying we have to conclude?
No.
What? So there was some sound voice. Okay, that's why it has been a very pleasurable experience talking with you. You have so much clarity in selection of words, in the flow of idea. It was a very grand, a very good experience listening to this. So, if I say you have been a writer, I know the notes on my fridge. Yes, refrigerator or fridge, notes on my fridge. That was a small booklet that you had. I don't know if you had brought it in print also. I saw it in the visual media, social media. So, if I say, ask you to come with one single word which to describe this life, what will be that?
To describe this life?
Our life, your life, or life in general, one word or one or two few words. That is life.
You know, ultimately we all want to surrender because we really don't have any control. And as soon as we understand that we don't have any control, as soon as we get it in our heads, I think our hearts know that really I don't have control. But as soon as our minds know that I really don't have any control, and we surrender then, and surrender for me to Shri Satya Sai Baba, surrender to you, to something that's more divine and that you easy for you to capture in your heart. As soon as we do that, I think all of us want to live happily. Only when we start to surrender will we truly start to live more happily.
Oh, beautiful. That was the last word Sri Krishna spoke in Gita. Sarvadharman parityajya. Leave out everything. Mamekam sharanam raja. Ekam. You just surrender to me. I'll take care of you. Don't worry. He says in the 18th chapter. So, Sareesha ji will conclude. It was a very joyous experience talking with you. I thought I should include Sareesha, apna Hirasha also in this conversation. But then I forgot to convey it to you. So if she could, day or night for her in New Zealand?
It's late night now.
Late night.
Yeah.
That doubt came into me, so I we won't disturb her.
She would definitely appreciate it.
Yes, that would have been very good.
Yeah.
I know as two sisters, normally in a family, we have seen sisters are very closely bound with each other. Males, they form their own world and they just are, the bondage slowly weakens. But sisters, and especially you two,
one correction.
Hirasha and Sareesha. Huh?
Not so in my family. My brother, we always.
No, I'm not talking about your brother. I know your
My
brother.
brother and my both sisters,
Yes.
we have been very blessed to be able to create a relationship and connection
Yes.
that surpasses all other normal day-to-day kind of drama that happens.
No, I was talking about you too. how closely you are bond with each other.
Yes.
So that she should have been here.
Yes.
Okay, we'll discuss it. So let us conclude. Namaste to you.
Namaste.
Divinity is always with us. It is, we are a form of divinity.
Yes.
So let the divine do his will. So we'll conclude. Namaste.
Namaste, Gopalji. Thank you again for this opportunity. Really grand to speak to you. And also, Vinitaji, thank you again for allowing us this technology opportunity. Much appreciated to you also.
Yes, 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 definitely.